God's chosen one. You are not here by accident. Heaven pressed pause on the chaos around you so this moment could reach you. Something sacred is stirring in the spirit realm, a divine interruption. Listen, you have been seen, watched, known, even before the first breath of creation. The ancient scrolls whispered your name into the throne room of God. You are not like the rest. You were never meant to blend in. You've questioned yourself too long. Why the pressure? Why the isolation? Why does your life feel like preparation for something unseen? The answer is written in fire. Heaven's archives bear your name, inscribed by the Almighty. You were chosen before birth. What the scrolls say about you will shake the dust off your soul. Let the world mock you. Let others define you. But the scrolls didn't lie. Every tear, every wound, every betrayal documented. Heaven hasn't overlooked you. You are not forgotten. You are foreknown. The prophet Jeremiah was told, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I set you apart." This is not just Jeremiah's truth, it's yours. You've been set apart, not cast aside. Rejection was redirection. You were being preserved for a holy unveiling. You try to make sense of your path with earthly logic, but your purpose was never built for earthly validation. You were born with heaven's fingerprint on your soul. The scrolls describe you as marked with prophetic urgency, a light hidden until its time. That time is now. There's a reason you don't fit in. Why? You can't numb yourself like others. You are sacred. You're being summoned, not by chance. Not by algorithm, but by divine appointment, written ages ago. Stop scrolling. Don't ignore this. This is your scroll speaking. The angelic realm knows who you are. Hell knows. The only one who forgot was you. But no more. This is your awakening. It's time to remember. The pain, the silence, the stripping, it wasn't punishment. It was preparation. What's written about you carries weight. You're not built to carry what's average. You're built to carry what's eternal. You're not just surviving. You're fulfilling prophecy. The word of the Lord declares in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 10, "A river of fire flowed from before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened." The books were opened. That includes yours. This isn't just another word. This is divine confirmation. You've wondered if what you carry is real. Let this moment bring alignment with your scroll. Heaven is sounding the alarm. Your time has come. The darkness feels it. The warfare is not proof of failure. It's proof of identity. You don't fight like the rest because you aren't like the rest. There is a generation rising, but you are a voice within it. A carrier of kingdom flame. A walking altar. A vessel God is purifying to pour himself through. That's why the enemy came after you so hard. Your mind, your confidence, your relationships. He read your scroll. He saw your name among those chosen to shift atmospheres, to break chains, to resurrect what others buried. He tried to abort your mission, but he failed. You're still here. A boldness is awakening in you now. Not ego, not hype, holy conviction. You were made for this. You may feel unqualified, but heaven has already qualified you. You don't need a crowd. You don't need worldly confirmation. You need to believe what's written. Your scroll says you're called. Your scroll says you're anointed. Your scroll says you are God's chosen one. It's time to walk in it. No apology, no fear, no delay. Heaven released this word to find you because your silence is no longer acceptable. Your light cannot remain hidden. You carry answers others are praying for. You carry oil forged through fire. And you carry assignment. What's ahead is not ordinary, it's prophecy fulfilled. If this word confirms what your spirit already knows, comment the number 144 below. Note, superstition, not chance. 144 symbolizes the marked, the sealed, the chosen. Let it be your yes. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, like, and share this word so others whose scrolls are sealed might awaken too. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are right on time. And everything that tried to bury you will witness your rising. The scroll is opening, and your chapter is just beginning. Before the mountains were formed, before time was measured in days and nights, your existence was already known. You were not born into this world randomly, nor were you assigned a life of spiritual weight by coincidence. You were marked intentionally, deliberately, eternally. When the foundations of the earth were being laid, heaven's scrolls were already filled with divine design. Among the multitudes, a remnant was chosen. Among the crowd, a name was whispered. That name was yours. In the quiet of eternity past, God made a decree about you that still echoes in the spirit realm. This one belongs to me. There are truths deeper than the physical world. You can see truths recorded in realms invisible to the natural eye. These scrolls contain more than prophecies. They carry identity, assignment, origin. They declare not just what you are, but who you were always meant to become. You were not marked by human hands. The mark on your life comes from the Ancient One, the Alpha and Omega. It cannot be erased by failure. It cannot be cancelled by the opinions of others. And it cannot be undone by your past. Because this mark is eternal, unshakable, holy. In your earliest days, you may not have understood why things felt different. You may have sensed the weight without knowing the reason. Even as a child, the loneliness, the awareness, the sensitivity to things unseen, it all pointed to something deeper. You weren't just a person, you were a vessel being prepared. And whether you knew it or not, heaven had already set you apart. There are moments in your life where things didn't make sense. Why relationships suddenly ended. Why doors slammed shut that you thought were God's will. Why people betrayed you without cause. But if you were to look beyond the pain, beyond the confusion, you would see the fingerprints of a divine marking at work, preserving you from becoming common, shielding you from environments that would corrupt your scroll. Because to be marked is to be monitored. To be set apart is to be guarded. When God places his hand on someone, there is often a stripping, a breaking that looks like rejection, but is actually protection. You have been kept, not overlooked. The mark of the chosen is not glamorous in the beginning. It can feel like exile. It can feel like silence. But it is in that silence where the scroll begins to awaken inside of you. It is in that silence where the heavens remind your spirit. You are not your past. You are not what they said. You are marked. The book of Ezekiel speaks of a time when God sent his messenger to place a mark on those who grieved over the corruption in the land. It was not placed on the loud, the proud, or the well-positioned, but on the broken-hearted, the sensitive, the weeping ones, those who could not blend in, those whose spirits ached at what others laughed at. These were the marked ones. So now, Look at yourself again, not through the mirror of shame, not through the lens of your mistakes, but through the lens of eternity. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not strange for being uncomfortable with compromise. That resistance within you is the mark doing its job, calling you higher, drawing you deeper. You weren't meant to follow the crowd. That's why the crowd never quite accepted you. You were called to interrupt patterns, not repeat them. You were sent to break cycles, not inherit them. And the enemy knew this. That's why, from the beginning, he's tried to confuse your identity, to distort the mirror so you couldn't see your reflection accurately, to wear you down until you believed you were ordinary. But he underestimated your scroll. He forgot about the fire inside you. He didn't count on the mark being stronger than the attacks, because the mark doesn't just protect, it activates. And now, it's stirring. You can feel it, can't you? A holy agitation, a restless awareness that you were born for something greater than survival. That's not pride, that's prophecy awakening. Your dreams have always been too big for the world around you. Your discernment has always been sharper than others understood. That's because you were never meant to live by the rules of the seen realm. You were marked to walk in alignment with what was written, not what was trending. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 16. All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. Before one of them came to be, that is the kind of calling you carry. That is the kind of mark upon your life. It is not fragile. It is not temporary. It does not depend on your popularity or perfection. It depends on the one who authored your existence and sealed it with purpose. So, no. You are not broken. You are not late. You are not behind. You are marked before time, beyond reason, and for eternity. You didn't just inherit your spiritual identity, you descend from it. Long before your earthly bloodline was established, your spirit was grafted into a legacy of warriors. You are not the first to carry this fire. You walk in the footprints of those who were feared by hell, trusted by heaven, and misunderstood by the world. You come from a lineage of prophets who stood alone against kings, of intercessors who prayed until heaven moved, of nameless servants who obeyed when no one was watching. You may not know their names, but your spirit recognizes their weight. The ancient scrolls didn't just describe your future, they confirmed your origin. You are the continuation of a battle-born bloodline. That battle didn't begin with you, and it will not end with you. You are part of something far older, far more powerful than the pain you've endured. You've been fighting battles that began generations before you were born, but you are not here to repeat their cycles. You're here to complete what they began. You've probably wondered, why has my life felt like warfare from the start? Why do I carry burdens others can't see? It's because the calling on your life is generational. You're not just fighting for your name, you're defending a legacy, a lineage, a spiritual inheritance that darkness has tried to interrupt for centuries. The ancient scrolls don't lie. They speak of lines drawn in the spirit realm, of families divided by compromise and devotion, of destinies delayed by disobedience, but never erased. You were sent to pick up what others dropped, to rebuild what others abandoned, to finish what others feared. You were never meant to live soft. You were born into a spiritual conflict and chosen to win. This is why the attacks against you have felt personal. This is why your life has always felt weightier than others. Your lineage is not average. Heaven looked down the corridors of time and saw you as the one who would not bend, the one who would not quit, the one who would break the cycle. It doesn't matter if your earthly family doesn't see it. It doesn't matter if people around you question it. Your origin is not limited to flesh and blood. You are born of spirit, baptized in fire, marked by prophecy. And heaven knows your bloodline because the scrolls recorded it in holy ink. Remember Gideon? He didn't see himself as a warrior, but heaven called him mighty man of valor. Why? Because God wasn't speaking to who he felt like, he was speaking to who he descended from. That same mantle rests on you. You've been hiding in wine presses, minimizing your anointing. But the scroll says warrior. The enemy has tried to convince you that you're weak because of what you've lost. But your wounds are not disqualifiers, they are confirmations. No warrior walks without scars. No chosen one escapes the battlefield unmarked. You didn't come this far by accident. You are the answer to someone's unfinished obedience. There's a phrase written into the scrolls of legacy. It says, "The remnant shall return." That remnant includes you, not because you're the most talented or the most visible, but because you said yes when others gave up. You chose obedience over applause. You chose intercession over indifference. And heaven took note. That stirring you feel when you hear words like mantle, assignment, calling. That's not hype. That's memory. Your spirit remembers what was passed down in the unseen realm. And even if your natural family couldn't carry it, you will. You don't just carry promise, you carry continuation. You are where prophetic threads converge. You are where unfinished scrolls find a pen again. And your obedience is the ink. Scripture records in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 9, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments." And you are one of those generations. You are evidence that the covenant still stands. That's why the enemy's strategy has always been confusion. Confuse your identity. Cloud your memory. Get you to believe you're just another face in the crowd. But you're not. You are the one who remembers. You are the one who wakes up. Comment, "I remember." Because when you say it, something ancient activates. Not just a word, but a thread of legacy pulling tight again in the spirit. When you type it, heaven sees your agreement. When you say it, the scroll continues. So stand up, warrior. Stop shrinking to fit spaces God never called you to. You descend from those who endured fire and famine and prison and exile, yet still sung, still prayed, still praised. That fire is in your veins. That blood is in your breath. You are not the end of the story. You are the chapter hell was hoping would never be written. And here you are. You've wept in silence over things no one saw. You've carried burdens that had no words, no explanations, only weight. And still, you kept going. Still, you kept showing up. But what if I told you none of it was missed? What if I told you that the very pages of the ancient scrolls recorded your pain and your coming victory? Chosen one. The scrolls don't only speak of your calling, they also carry every tear, every moment of despair, every hour you felt forgotten. There is a chapter written in heaven about your suffering. But unlike the stories of this world, the divine script doesn't end with tragedy, it ends with triumph. You have to know this. Your suffering was written, but so was your breakthrough. Your pain was not wasted. It was permitted, but never purposeless. The trials that nearly broke you were never random. They were seen, allowed, and measured, not to crush you, but to crown you, not to silence you, but to strengthen the roar that hell tried to mute. Heaven knew what you would go through, and heaven made sure your story didn't stop there. It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of the valley. It's hard to believe there's purpose when your prayers feel unanswered and your strength is gone. But the scroll saw that moment too, and it saw what comes after: the rising, the rebuilding, the roaring return of a chosen one who refused to surrender. There is a sacred connection between your tears and your authority. Suffering has a way of producing oil, but only when surrendered. You've been through what should have crushed you, and yet here you are, still breathing, still believing. That's not weakness. That's spiritual resilience. That's prophetic proof that what was written about you is still unfolding. Scripture says in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 18, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Let that settle into your bones. The suffering is real, but the glory will overshadow it. The pain was brutal, but the reward will be divine. Heaven didn't leave you alone in the storm. Even when you couldn't feel the presence of God, His hand was still guiding the story. There are moments where the author writes in silence, but that doesn't mean he's not writing, and the silence you survived. It sharpened you. It taught your spirit how to hear whispers others miss. There were days you wanted to give up, but something in you refused. That something wasn't just strength, it was your scroll speaking. It was the echo of the words written about you long before the trial even began. You didn't hold on by willpower, you were held by purpose. Every loss you endured, it stripped the distractions. Every betrayal, it exposed the counterfeit. Every delay, it matured the mission. You've been refined in fire, but not consumed. You were being forged, not forgotten. The enemy thought your suffering would disqualify you, that it would make you too bitter to bless others, too ashamed to speak, too tired to rise again. But what he didn't anticipate was that suffering would turn into strategy, pain would turn into power, scars would become signs. There's a holy authority on those who suffer and don't let go of the promise. Not because they're perfect, but because they refused to stop believing even with broken hands. That's who you are. That's why your voice has weight. That's why your presence shifts atmospheres. You didn't just read about warfare, you walked through it. You've ministered while bleeding. You've comforted others while collapsing inside. You've stood in rooms where no one knew you were carrying grief like bricks, but you smiled anyway. And the scrolls have written every moment of it, not to shame you, but to validate you. Because when the glory is revealed, no one will question the crown on your head. The journey will explain it all. Don't regret your journey. Don't curse the years that felt empty. They were sowing something you couldn't see. Your obedience in the dark is what qualifies you for authority in the light. And here's what's beautiful. Your story is about to become someone else's survival guide. What tried to bury you will become the seed of someone else's awakening. This is the mystery of the scroll. It redeems even the suffering. You are not the pain. You are the purpose that pain was trying to prevent, but it failed. You're still here, and the part of the scroll you're about to step into, it's drenched in glory. There's something about your presence that stirs resistance. Something about the way you enter a room and shift the atmosphere without saying a word. It's not charisma. It's not personality. It's the mark. It's the light. You carry what heaven placed inside of you before your birth, a divine disturbance to darkness. You've wondered why certain people withdraw from you, why old friends don't feel comfortable around you anymore, why spaces you used to enjoy now feel spiritually heavy. The reason: you no longer walk in silence, you walk in light. And light makes darkness nervous. You weren't meant to blend in. The scrolls didn't assign you to echo the world. You are an original, a spiritual disruption, a divine alarm clock sent to wake up sleeping souls and expose hidden things. That's why you've been fought so hard. That's why peace feels like a war zone when you show up. Darkness senses the weight of what you carry, even when you forget it. There is something you must understand. When you walk into a place, the atmosphere responds to you. Not because of who you are in the natural, but because of what your scroll says you represent in the spirit. You were written into the earth as a sent one. You didn't stumble here. You were released here, even if you don't feel it yet. Hell recognizes it. That's why confusion has tried to cloud your mind. That's why you've battled heaviness without explanation. Because if the enemy can't destroy you, he'll try to distract you, get you to turn your light down, to shrink in spiritual spaces, to stay quiet when your scroll says roar. But listen to me, you carry a light that terrifies darkness. Your obedience shakes unseen realms. Your presence alone shifts atmospheres, and you need to stop apologizing for it. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You're not better than anyone. You're just becoming what was written, and becoming always causes tension. People around you may not understand, but heaven does. The scrolls do. They've seen your fire growing, and the more it grows, the more resistance you'll feel, not to break you, but to build you. This world is growing darker by the day, but you, chosen one, you were never meant to flicker in a corner. You were born to blaze, to burn bright in hostile territory. You don't just have light, you are light. The Word of God declares in the second book of Samuel, chapter 22, verse 29, "You, Lord, are my lamp. The Lord turns my darkness into light." You are not just holding light, you are walking evidence that light has overcome the dark. You are the fulfillment of what others only prayed for. You are a city, not a candle, a fire, not a flicker. You are positioned to shine, not for applause, not for platform, but for impact. And yes, it will cost you. Yes, some won't celebrate you. But remember, scrolls don't record popularity, they record obedience. When your light rises, it will expose hidden things in others. That's why some recoil from you. It's not you, it's what your light reveals. Your purity confronts compromise. Your hunger convicts their apathy. Your consistency disrupts their excuses. But don't dim down for acceptance. You weren't called to be liked. You were called to lead. And right now, we need light bearers. We need warriors who remember who they are. We need voices that don't echo culture, but carry kingdom. That's what this space is for. That's why these words find you now, not just to encourage you, but to awaken the warrior in you. So take a moment like this word, if it ignited something in your spirit. Share it with someone whose flame is fading. Subscribe to stay connected to this movement of divine awakening. And if you feel led to sustain the flow of this message, your donation, no matter the size, helps keep the oil burning. This is not about hype, it's about helping others hear what heaven is still writing. But even if you do none of that, know this: you are light. Not just in theory, not just in private. You carry the tangible presence of heaven in public spaces. And when you walk in, the balance shifts. The room notices. Hell notices. Because you are walking fulfillment. You are scroll in motion. You don't shine because life is easy. You shine because the scroll said, "Let there be light," and you came forth. So don't shrink. Don't soften. Don't stall. You are not just walking through life, you're igniting it. You are not here to survive the dark. You were sent to conquer it. There is a sealed scroll within you. It's not written in ink, but in fire, not stored on paper, but etched into your spirit. You felt it stirring in dreams, pressing through silence, calling out in the middle of the night. It's the sense that there's more, that you're carrying something eternal that's not yet fully visible. And you're right, chosen one. You are walking around with divine documentation inside of you, a scroll authored by God before your first breath. It holds the blueprint of your assignment, your gifts, your battles, and your breakthrough. But here's what many don't understand. That scroll is sealed until you say yes. Destiny is not unlocked by time. It's unlocked by obedience. That ache you feel isn't emptiness. It's an unopened scroll. There's a holy mystery to it. Heaven doesn't force it open. The Spirit waits. Waits for your surrender. Waits for your hunger. Waits for you to stop reaching for applause and start reaching for alignment. Because when that scroll opens, everything changes. This is why you felt the tension increase. You are living between two realms, the life others expect of you and the life heaven wrote for you. The scroll is what bridges the gap. When you start walking in what's written, people will notice the difference. Authority will increase. Discernment will sharpen. Peace will deepen. But first, you must awaken the scroll within. This isn't about chasing platforms. It's about unlocking purpose. Your scroll is not a career plan, it's a heavenly mandate. It contains names you haven't met, regions you haven't touched, miracles you haven't seen. All of it, sealed until you obey. You've probably felt it before, those moments where something bigger rises inside you, where your spirit suddenly feels heavy for no earthly reason. That's your scroll. It doesn't shout, it pulls. It doesn't demand, it reminds. You were not sent here for survival. You were sent to manifest what's written. It is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 5, verse 4. I wept and wept, because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. Not even heaven groaned for someone worthy to unseal destiny. Now consider this: God wrote a scroll about you and waits for you to agree with it. The reason the enemy fought your identity so hard was to keep you from even searching for that scroll. Because once you touch it, once you begin to unseal it, you're no longer predictable. You're no longer easy to manipulate. You become dangerous because a believer walking in what is written cannot be stopped. So, what does that look like? It starts small. Radical obedience. Quick surrender. Prayers you don't understand fully but feel deeply. It looks like fasting when no one else is. Like waking up at 3 a.m. to write what God whispered in a dream. It looks like walking away from what is good to make space for what is God. And yes, the scroll opens slowly. One act of faith, one bold yes. One holy no, page by page. The fire within you reveals what was written in eternity. This is why you cannot compare your walk with others. Their scroll is not your scroll. Their timeline is not your timeline. Their visibility is not your value. Heaven is not looking for performance. It's looking for permission. Will you let the scroll open? Will you stop fighting for control and start fighting for alignment? This may explain why you felt divine frustration lately. Like something is on the edge of releasing, but you can't quite access it. It's because your scroll is pressing against the inside of your spirit. It's trying to open, but heaven won't force it. It's your yes that breaks the seal. And when it does, everything changes. You'll speak and chains will fall. You'll walk into places and peace will come. Your presence will carry prophetic weight. Not because of who you are, but because of what you've agreed to release. This is not about being ready. This is about being willing. You don't need a title. You need surrender. You don't need perfect knowledge. You need holy hunger. The scroll waits for neither your credentials nor your comfort. It only responds to your yes. So now, the moment is here. This isn't emotional hype. This is a divine crossroad. If something in your spirit is stirring, if your heart is burning, as you read, don't ignore it. That's the seal trembling. Comment the number 717 below. This is not random. 717 is a prophetic sign of sealed purpose, becoming revealed through personal agreement. The scroll opens when obedience meets divine timing. Let this be your yes in the spirit, because when that scroll opens, the version of you that emerges won't look like the one this world has known. You will not echo culture. You will embody kingdom. You will not live reactive. You will walk revealed. Your scroll is waiting. There are betrayals you didn't deserve. People you loved, who turned away. Moments that left you breathless, not from awe, but from the sting of abandonment. And still, you kept walking. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something in you refused to let the wound win. Chosen one. The scrolls spoke of this too, long before the dagger touched your back, before the silence of those you trusted swallowed your voice. Your journey through betrayal was already written, not to break you, but to refine you. Heaven knew that betrayal would come, and heaven also knew you'd survive it. The scroll doesn't skip over your wounds. It doesn't gloss over the pain. In fact, some of the most sacred lines in your scroll were penned through the blood of betrayal, because what pierced your heart didn't just leave a scar, it unlocked something holy, something irreversible, something eternal. The ones who walked away weren't strong enough to go where you're headed. The hands that let go weren't anointed to hold what you carry. And the ones who lied about you only confirmed what the scroll already made clear. Your life is not built on human approval. It's built on divine assignment. Do you remember how Jesus was betrayed with a kiss? That detail wasn't accidental. It was prophetic, because betrayal often wears the mask of love. The same lips that say, "I believe in you," are sometimes the first to curse you behind closed doors. And yet even that was written. The Word of God says in the book of Psalms, chapter 41, verse 9, "Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me." No, David wrote it. Jesus lived it. And now, so have you. But here is the deeper truth. Betrayal didn't disqualify you. It qualified you, because only those marked by heaven are attacked like you've been. Only those carrying oil are squeezed, like you've been. The pressure you've endured wasn't proof of weakness. It was evidence of oil being extracted. Anointing doesn't come without pressing, and pressing doesn't come without betrayal. You've probably asked yourself, why did they turn on me when I was loyal? The answer isn't found in them, it's found in you. You carry something costly, and costly things attract conflict. You carry truth, and truth exposes. You carry light, and light irritates what hides in shadow. But make no mistake, what was meant to destroy you has only made you clearer, stronger, sharper. There is something unshakable being built inside you through every heartbreak, something that no applause or validation could ever produce. Sometimes betrayal is the door heaven allows, so you'll stop knocking on what's beneath your calling. Sometimes God lets people walk away, so you'll finally stop trying to shrink into places you've outgrown. You're not meant to spend your life explaining your heart to those committed to misunderstanding it. And you don't need to fight to prove your purity. Your fruit will speak for itself in time. The scroll doesn't need defending, it just needs to be lived. There's a line in the spirit realm that gets crossed when you decide to stop chasing closure and start chasing calling. You can't hold the mantle and cling to the wound. Let the betrayal fall away. Let the weight of their opinion be loosed. Let the sting remind you of this one thing. You were never meant to be sustained by their loyalty, only by God's faithfulness. And He has never turned away. Not once. Not in your darkest moment. Not when you felt most humiliated. Not when the lies spread faster than your truth. He stayed, and He wrote through it. The scroll now carries the testimony of how you didn't retaliate, how you kept your mouth shut when you wanted to scream, how you loved even when trust had been shattered. That kind of obedience doesn't go unnoticed in heaven. That kind of surrender unlocks glory. Don't let what happened to you become your identity. Let it become your fire. Don't wear bitterness like a badge. Wear endurance like a crown. Betrayal was never the end. It was the refining fire that proved what you're made of. And now you walk lighter, wiser, more dangerous to the enemy than ever before. Because now you know that even when people fail, the scroll stays true. The next chapter doesn't need their permission. The next season won't be built on unstable alliances. The betrayal was painful, yes, but it cleared the room for something purer. Heaven is drawing a new circle around you, and only the ones who honor what's on your life will be allowed through. So take one final breath and release it. Release the names. Release the bitterness. Release the questions. It wasn't for nothing. And it's not the end of your story. The scroll still turns. You carry more than most will ever know. They see your face, but not your weight. They hear your voice, but not the volume of what you've had to silence just to keep going. There is a heaviness that follows the chosen, not because you're weak, but because you've been trusted with much. The scrolls reveal this again and again. Those who are called to great purpose are always assigned a weight beyond their age, experience, or status. From the outside, it doesn't make sense. You don't have the resume. You weren't the first choice. You didn't come from prestige. But heaven isn't moved by qualifications, it's moved by surrender. And what you've carried in private, God has recorded in eternity. There are things you've shouldered that others would have crumbled under. Pain you absorbed silently. Pressure you endured faithfully. And the reason you kept standing, it wasn't your strength. It was grace. It was the invisible hand of God, reinforcing your spirit when your body and mind had nothing left to give. Chosen one. This is what the scrolls say about you. You carry prophetic weight, the kind that shifts atmospheres, convicts hearts, disturbs darkness. Not because you try to, but because you exist that way. You've had to grow faster. You've had to discern deeper. You've had to cry in moments where others celebrated because you saw what they missed. That's the weight. That's the price of seeing, hearing, sensing, and knowing what others don't. There are those who envy your glow, but don't know the crushing it took to shine. They want your mantle, but not your midnight. They want your clarity, but not your consecration. But you've paid the price in silence. Heaven knows the cost, and heaven honors it. The Word of God says in the second book of Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." End of eternal glory. That's what your weight is producing. Not recognition, not applause. Glory. The reason your battles have felt more intense than others, it's because your destiny carries weight, and spiritual weight always attracts warfare. You're not under attack because you're cursed. You're under attack because you're carrying something holy, something the enemy would rather see buried than birthed. The scroll doesn't lie. It says the heavier the oil, the deeper the pressing. And you, chosen one, are carrying oil made for nations, not neighborhoods. This is why surface-level living will never satisfy you, why shallow conversations drain you, why entertainment that once amused you now grieves your spirit. You're not built for the shallow end. You were born to carry depth. You've likely wrestled with questions like, why do I always feel responsible for things no one else sees? Or, why can't I just relax like everyone else? It's because the weight has matured you, accelerated you. It's drawn out parts of you that others spend decades discovering. And yes, there are days it feels unfair. Yes, you've longed for someone to come and lift what you've carried. But here's the truth. You're not carrying it alone. You never have. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead is living in you. And though the weight may not lift right away, you are being strengthened under it. There is power in the press. There is breakthrough in the burden. What others call pressure, heaven calls preparation. What others call overthinking, heaven calls prophetic processing. What others call too much, heaven calls just enough to carry what's coming. You don't just carry weight, you steward it. You don't complain about the cost, you consecrate under it. You don't collapse under the calling, you rise slowly, fiercely, faithfully. Sonu. They may never know the full story. They may never grasp what it's like to live with your kind of awareness, your kind of discernment, your kind of internal fire. But the scroll does. Heaven does. And it's being written down, line by line. You won't always carry this kind of tension. There are seasons where the weight shifts into release, where the burden lifts and the reward begins to bloom. But until then, walk as one trusted with sacred things. Hold the weight as one chosen to move heaven's plans forward. Your shoulders are strong not because they were born that way, but because grace made them that way. The oil will flow. The weight will speak. And when it does, every hidden moment of pressure will be justified by glory. There are moments in the Spirit when heaven moves in your direction, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your scroll was opened. Right now is one of those moments. Because even as you read, there are angels on assignment moving, not randomly, but prophetically, under direct instruction from what is written about you. You are not alone in your purpose. Though the path has felt lonely at times, you've never walked it without divine company. There are messengers assigned to your scroll. Their movement is not triggered by emotion, but by alignment. And the more you walk in obedience, the more you awaken what heaven has dispatched for you. You don't need to beg God to send help. Help was already written. You don't have to strive to get heaven's attention. You already have it. The battle was never about getting God to notice you. It was about you remembering what's been written. Chosen one. There are angelic beings who read from your scroll daily. Not because you are better than anyone else, but because your assignment requires it. You are not just protected, you are partnered. When you speak, what aligns with heaven? Angels move. When you act in obedience, they war on your behalf. This is not fantasy. This is spiritual structure. We see this truth throughout the Word. In the book of Psalms, chapter 103, verse 20, it is written, "Praise the Lord, you, his angels, you mighty ones, who do his bidding, who obey his word." The angels don't obey your emotions. They obey God's word, and when your life begins to echo what's written in your scroll, they are activated to move. They war for your peace. They guard your path. They make a way where none existed. This explains why the warfare increases right before alignment. It's not just about your mind. It's about your scroll nearing a moment of fulfillment. It's about angelic timing and demonic interference. The enemy fears what will happen if you actually step fully into agreement with what was written. Have you noticed it? Those moments where you feel sudden resistance, sudden heaviness, sudden distraction, especially right before a major decision, a step of obedience, or a moment of clarity. That's not coincidence. That's collision. Two realms fighting for your alignment. But here's what you must remember. Heaven never stopped moving. Your help didn't disappear. Your covering didn't lift. The angelic forces assigned to your scroll have not given up. They stand ready, not for your perfection, but for your permission. You don't need to be flawless to walk in this. You need to be sensitive. You need to be surrendered. That's where authority flows. The scroll is not unlocked through striving. It opens as you yield, step by step. Even when you sleep, heaven watches. Even when you don't know the next move, heaven waits with you. There are moments where you are too tired to pray, but the Spirit intercedes. And angels still move. There are things you've avoided that they've shielded you from. Traps you never saw that they dismantled in silence. And when you wept in the dark, when you nearly quit, when your own voice gave out, they stood around you, not moved by emotion, but by assignment. This is why you've survived what others didn't. This is why your life has been preserved through moments that didn't make sense. Your scroll still has pages left to fulfill. You've only just begun to touch what was written, and heaven knows it. This is why hell fears your stillness. Because when you're still long enough to hear, you remember. And when you remember, you speak. And when you speak with alignment, heaven moves with speed. This is your confirmation. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was orchestration. Heaven has been setting the stage, aligning people, arranging timing, shielding the scroll, protecting the prophecy. So, as you rise again, Understand this, you are not rising alone. There is a spiritual entourage walking with you into every new room. You don't need to carry fear. You don't need to apologize for favor. The scroll says you were born for this, and the angels agree. Even now, they wait. Comment. Angels, move now, because your agreement matters. Not to earn access, but to activate attention. When you type it, you're not just leaving a word. You're confirming a shift. You're acknowledging the unseen. You're aligning with what was always true. You are covered. So walk forward boldly, not arrogantly, but confidently. The scroll is not a dream. It's a document. And it's time to walk like it's already unfolding. You're not the only one reading it. Heaven is too. The war you're in didn't start with you. It didn't begin the moment you felt pressure. The battle you're facing is ancient one that's been written in scrolls long before your name was known on earth. This is not just resistance. This is spiritual war over fulfillment. You may feel like you're under attack for no reason, like nothing makes sense, like you're doing everything right and still being crushed. But in truth, you're not being attacked because of what you're doing wrong. You're being attacked because of what you're doing right. The scrolls reveal that there are moments where heaven's timeline and your obedience collide, and when that happens, hell reacts violently. Not because you're weak, but because your next step is a strategic blow to the enemy's kingdom. This is why the warfare always intensifies right before alignment. The closer you get to stepping into what was written, the louder the resistance becomes. But don't mistake warfare for failure. Resistance is often a sign that the scroll is unfolding. This war is not about your comfort. It's about your position. And right now, you're standing in the middle of prophecy. Whether you realize it or not, the fight has never been about you as a person. It's about the effect you have when you walk in truth. The enemy fears what happens when you align. He fears the ripple effect your obedience causes. Because when one chosen, one rises, others wake up. Scrolls start to unlock all around you. Regions shift. Families break free. Chains fall, and he loses ground. That's why you've felt so attacked lately. Your clarity threatened. Your identity questioned. Your emotions shaken. But chosen one, don't you see it yet? You're standing in fulfillment's doorway, and the enemy will throw everything he has to keep you from walking through it. But he's too late. You've already awakened, and what heaven has written hell cannot erase. In the second book of Chronicles, chapter 20, verse 15, we find this word: do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. You were never meant to fight alone. Your job is not to win the war by force, but to stand your ground in truth, to remain in alignment, to resist compromise, to hold the line even when it costs you comfort. Yes, it's costly. Yes, it's isolating. But it's also holy, because the scroll doesn't speak of a half-hearted warrior. It speaks of one who endured, one who kept walking, one who stood in the fire and didn't flinch. That's you. That's who heaven sees when your name is read. Even now, as you read these words, the Spirit of God is strengthening your inner man, infusing your spirit with fresh oil, reminding you that you were not called to merely survive this battle. You were sent to turn it. You are not a casualty. You are a catalyst. This moment is not the end, it's the threshold. And what lies beyond it is something no enemy can touch. Your scroll is still active, So don't let the warfare silence your worship. Don't let fatigue numb your focus. Heaven is still speaking, and the scroll still turns. Victory has never been about feeling, it's about faithfulness. And right now, if this word has met you where you are, take a moment like it as a witness. Let it mark something in your spirit. Share this with someone else you know is fighting a silent battle. Someone carrying weight you can't see. Let them know they're not crazy, they're just close. And if this message has confirmed what heaven's already been stirring in, you subscribe to stay connected. You're not walking this alone. There is a global remnant waking up, and you're part of it. Finally, if you feel led to sow into this flow, your donation keeps this fire moving. It keeps scrolls opening in places we'll never physically go, but the message will. Every seed, no matter the size, fuels the mission of awakening God's chosen ones. You're not giving to content, you're giving to clarity. But whether you give, like, or share, know this: the scroll says you're not done. It says your battle is covered. It says your name has been read in the throne room, and heaven has already responded. So wipe your tears, square your shoulders, tighten your grip. This war isn't random, it's holy, and you were written for it. There is a mantle resting on your life. It doesn't come from man. It wasn't passed to you through tradition or title. It came straight from the scroll written by the hand of God and confirmed in fire. You didn't ask for it. You didn't campaign for it. But heaven chose you for it. Chosen one. You walk in the shadow of those who carried divine assignments before you. Prophets, intercessors, reformers, people whose obedience echoed for generations. And whether you realize it or not, your name is written among them, not because of what you've done, but because of what you've been called to complete. A mantle is not a reward, it's a responsibility. It is heaven's mark of trust on a life. It means God can put weight on your shoulders without them breaking. It means you've been tested, crushed, and found faithful, not perfect, but yielded. Some assume mantles are glamorous, but you know better. You've felt the isolation that comes with it, the spiritual pressure, the expectations you didn't ask for, the warfare that started the moment you said yes to something no one else could see. And still, you kept walking. Still, you kept obeying. That's how mantles form, not through applause, but through endurance. The scrolls don't write mantles lightly. They are reserved for those who refuse to run when the oil gets heavy, for those who pray through the pain, for those who stand when others scatter. And your scroll has not only written your calling, it has also recorded your qualification through suffering. It is written in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 13. He picked up the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. End of. Elisha didn't just receive Elijah's mantle, he picked it up. It wasn't placed on him. He had to reach for it. Likewise, your mantle requires movement, agreement, response. You can't inherit a spiritual mantle if you're still clinging to fear. You can't walk in kingdom authority if you're more committed to comfort than calling. The scrolls are clear. Mantles rest on those who choose assignment over applause. You may not feel ready. You may think someone else is more worthy. But mantles don't fall on the strongest. They fall on the willing. You are not too broken. You are not too late. If anything, your scars are the very evidence that your shoulders are ready. God does not place mantles on untested lives. He chooses those who have been misunderstood but stayed humble, rejected but stayed pure, those who have walked through fire and didn't come out bitter. You've proven that your heart can hold oil without leaking it through ego. That's why the scrolls testify of you. That's why heaven has prepared you in secret. Because your public mantle could never be sustained by private emptiness. So God allowed the crushing. He allowed the quiet seasons, not to disqualify you, but to make sure the mantle wouldn't crush you when it came. And now, the shift is happening. The oil has matured. The fire has refined. And what once felt like a burden is about to become a weapon. Your words will carry weight, not because of volume, but because of heaven's echo. Your prayers will hit differently. Your silence will carry authority. People won't be drawn to your appearance, they'll be drawn to your presence. Because when you wear a mantle from heaven, the room knows, the spirit realm knows, hell knows. You no longer walk in assumption, you walk in assignment. This isn't about impressing anyone, it's about representing someone. When people encounter you, they'll encounter clarity, conviction, breakthrough. Not because of who you are, but because of what's been placed on you from above. And this is just the beginning. There is more to this mantle than you've seen. It will grow with your obedience. It will stretch with your surrender. Every time you say yes, the scroll unfolds. Every time you say no to distraction, the anointing deepens. So don't downplay it. Don't explain it away. Don't try to make it smaller so others feel more comfortable. This mantle wasn't handed to a crowd. It was written for you. Heaven knew the exact shoulders it would rest upon, and those shoulders are yours. The weight you feel isn't pressure, it's placement. The shift you sense isn't fear, it's the scroll opening. The mantle has fallen. Now it's time to pick it up. There are seasons where God seems silent, not absent. Butkie, where the heavens don't roar, the signs don't show, and everything in your life feels like it's standing still. You've fasted, you've prayed, you've knocked, and yet the door doesn't swing open. The scroll feels sealed. The vision seems delayed. But let this settle deep into your spirit. Delay is not denial. The ancient scrolls speak of delay, not as punishment, but as preparation. You, chosen one, have not been forgotten. You've been hidden, and that hiddenness is not rejection, it's refinement. Heaven delays what it values, not to withhold, but to protect what's still being formed. Sometimes the pause is God's protection. Sometimes the silence is divine setup. Because what's written in your scroll cannot be rushed. It must be revealed at the appointed time. It is written in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3. For the vision awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. End quote. That's not just a verse, that's a promise. The delay you're experiencing isn't an interruption. It's a strategy. The enemy wants you to believe you've missed it, that you're disqualified, that the window has closed. But he is terrified of your patience. Because waiting without wavering is one of the rarest forms of worship. You're not standing still, you're being aligned. Your roots are going deeper, so your reach can go higher. The scroll has not stopped turning. You're just in a chapter that takes more time. The ones who learn to move slowly with God, who don't chase counterfeit doors out of frustration, become the ones entrusted with the weightiest assignments. Because they've proven they can steward delay without compromising destiny. You see, heaven doesn't measure progress like earth does. We measure by speed. God measures by surrender. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You're becoming. Delay matures your character. Delay purifies your motives. Delay exposes what you've been leaning on. And once it finishes its work, nothing can stop the scroll from opening at full force. This may explain the spiritual fatigue you've felt lately. That lingering heaviness, the subtle lie that nothing's moving. But the truth is, everything is moving just beneath the surface. The scroll is alive. The vision is breathing. It's just not yet public. But heaven sees what you're carrying in silence. The quiet faith. The decisions to stay pure when compromise was easier. The choice to keep trusting when prayers went unanswered. These things move heaven more than loud declarations. You are proving to heaven that you're not in love with timing, you're in love with obedience. And that's what makes you ready. This kind of waiting is not passive. It is prophetic tension. You are leaning into what's coming, stretching under the weight of something greater than now. You're not wasting time, you're investing it. Every moment of obedience during delay compounds into supernatural momentum when release comes. And when it comes, it will happen fast. Suddenly, without apology. What took years to wait for will take moments to manifest. The people who thought you were stuck will see you shift overnight. Not because you forced it, but because you waited well. So, don't despise the delay. Don't curse the pause. Don't assume silence equals absence. Heaven is near. The scroll is still active. The vision still stands. And right now, if this word resonates deep in your waiting heart, comment the number 515 below. 515 is a prophetic code for grace in transition. The first 5, grace for the delay. The 1, you, choosing to trust through stillness. The second 5, grace for the sudden shift. Let it be your silent shout in the spirit. I haven't given up. Because even when nothing seemed to be moving, you stayed. And that, chosen one, was always the real test. Heaven doesn't crown the quickest, it crowns the faithful. And right now, while others run ahead, chasing noise, you are standing still for the whisper. That kind of patience can't be taught. It's written into the scroll of those who were born to finish strong. So stand, not with desperation, but with expectation. The door will open, the page will turn, and when it does, the wait will make sense. The wait will reveal the glory, and the scroll will speak for itself, and the scroll will speak for itself. Those who questioned your silence will witness your unveiling. Those who left during the pause will regret missing the rise. Because glory never rushes, it arrives. Destiny doesn't arrive all at once. It unfolds, line by line, step by step, page by page. And the scroll written about you is no different. It doesn't drop like thunder. It unrolls like revelation. Slowly, intentionally, prophetically. Chosen one. What you're walking in now is only a glimpse of what's coming. You are not standing at the finish. You are barely crossing the threshold. But here's the beauty of the scroll. It opens as you obey. The more you move in alignment, the more heaven reveals. This is not about performance. It's about permission. Heaven is not waiting for your perfection. It's waiting for your yes. You've already noticed it. When you say yes to the Spirit, new levels of clarity come. Doors that were shut begin to open. People begin to enter or exit without explanation. It's not chaos. It's confirmation. The scroll is responding to your obedience. Your life is beginning to echo what was written. Obedience is the master key. Not gifting. Not ambition. Not timing. The scroll opens for those who will walk when the outcome is unclear, who will surrender when the path is dark, who will say yes when the cost is high. This is how destiny is unwrapped through fire-tested steps of faith. You may have expected a sudden breakthrough, but heaven doesn't operate like the world. God doesn't throw destiny at you, He trusts it to you. And trust is measured through consistency in small things. It is written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, verse 10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Own if you felt hidden, unnoticed, delayed. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Heaven doesn't reveal full scrolls to those who haven't stewarded partial pages. Each page of your scroll is tied to a response. When you obey, the next page turns. When you ignore the prompting, the scroll pauses, not in judgment, but in mercy. God waits for your alignment. This is why obedience matters more than outcome. You don't need to understand the full picture to take the next step. You just need to trust that the scroll will never lead you where His grace cannot keep you. There are pages written with names you haven't met yet, assignments you haven't stepped into, places your feet will stand that your mind has not imagined. And all of it is hidden behind today's choices. The scroll doesn't reward loudness. It honors obedience in silence. It opens for those who choose consecration in private. Those who say no to good things because they're waiting on God things. The ones who have learned that just because you can doesn't mean you should. You are not missing out. You are being moved into place. Some pages turn with shouts, some with whispers, but every turn of the scroll carries weight. And when you live aware of this, even your small decisions take on eternal significance. That's what makes you different. You don't just live for the moment, you live from the scroll. You've come to know that timing is sacred, placement is intentional, and delay is often divine. You've learned to stop forcing open what God has not yet revealed. You've stopped chasing what's next and started listening to what's now. Because what's now is holy. Obedience in this moment becomes the foundation for the next move, the next door, the next revelation. And the scroll will not skip steps. It will wait as long as it takes for your yes to match its rhythm. This is why your journey doesn't look like others. You weren't written for fast growth. You were written for rooted impact. The scroll isn't building your platform, it's building your person. Your name may not be known by many, but in the spirit, you are recognized, not for noise, but for consistency, not for popularity, but for purity. And when heaven reads your name, it does not tremble, it rejoices, because you said yes when it was hard. You stayed planted when it was dry. You showed up when you felt unseen. The scroll turns for hearts like that. So don't despise the small steps. Don't rush the unfolding. Destiny isn't a leap. It's a long obedience in the same direction. And with every act of surrender, another page turns. You won't miss what's written. Just stay faithful. The scroll is still unrolling, and when it finishes, the heavens will testify, not that you were the fastest, but that you were faithful, not that you knew everything, but that you obeyed anyway. Some things about your life cannot be explained, they can only be discerned. The people around you may not see it. The world may not acknowledge it. But in the invisible realm, there are watchers, heavenly beings who know exactly who you are and exactly what you carry. These are not spectators. They are assigned, chosen one. The scroll written about you is not guarded casually. It is watched, protected, and documented by spiritual beings assigned specifically to your life. Not to control it, but to witness it, to ensure what was written unfolds without interference, to surround the sacred assignment you were born to carry. You've likely felt it before. The sense that someone was watching, not in fear, but in awe. The weight of being seen when no one is looking. That's not paranoia. That's awareness. Your scroll isn't just known by God, it is being observed in real time by heaven's appointed watchmen. They're not watching your performance. They're watching your alignment. They are drawn to obedience, to surrender, to movements that mirror heaven's rhythm. They don't flinch at your failures. They remain because of your faithfulness. And every time you say yes to God when no one sees, they mark it. Every time you choose humility when pride was easier, they witness it. There are things about your life that were never meant to be private, even though they're hidden right now. Your private purity, your hidden sacrifices, your silent intercessions, these are being documented by those assigned to your scroll. And heaven keeps record differently than earth. The throne doesn't tally numbers, it weighs obedience. The book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1, gives us a glimpse of this mystery. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and run with perseverance the race marked out for us. End quote. A great cloud. Witnesses. Watching. Not to condemn, but to celebrate every act of alignment with your scroll. There are moments you were not strong, but you chose righteousness anyway. You weren't sure, but you said yes. You didn't feel ready, but you moved forward. That's what they mark. That's what the watchers celebrate. Not the perfection of your pace, but the direction of your heart. These watchers are not distant angels drifting across galaxies. They are close. They move when God speaks over your life. They respond when the scroll turns. They are drawn to surrendered authority. And they move in sync with prophetic obedience. You don't have to see them to be changed by their presence. And you were never meant to live unaware of them. The assignments you carry are not light. You've known that. You've felt the pressure, the weight, the invisible tension that can't be put into words. But now you know why. You're being watched because you're being trusted. The scroll entrusted to you carries things that will impact more than just your lifetime. You are living in a story that stretches beyond what you can see. Every generation has those who carried something others couldn't. You are one of them. That's why your life has been preserved. That's why the enemy couldn't destroy you in your lowest moment. It wasn't just because you were strong. It was because heaven had watchers standing guard over your purpose. There are scroll keepers, angels, messengers, witnesses whose entire assignment is to protect what's unfolding in you. And they don't just stand still. They move at the pace of your obedience. When you resist darkness, they war. When you speak truth, they record. When you worship in pain, they declare. The scroll is alive in this one. So don't think for a moment that your sacrifices go unnoticed. Don't assume that what you're doing in secret is insignificant. The hidden obedience is often the holiest. The watchers don't need to see perfection. They need to see consent, that you are in agreement with what's written, that you are still choosing surrender, even when the reward is invisible. And here's the mystery. As they watch, they protect. As they witness, they intervene. As they observe, they prepare. You are not walking alone. You are walking with the unseen. And the scroll keeps turning, not in silence, but under the eyes of those appointed by God to ensure you reach everything heaven intended. They don't just witness your journey, they echo heaven's confidence in you. You're not merely watched, you're backed. You were not chosen for convenience. You were chosen for confrontation. Not to start fights, but to finish what darkness tried to delay for generations. There is something confrontational about your presence in the spirit realm. You don't walk into rooms quietly, not because of your volume, but because of your authority. Even when you're silent, the atmosphere shifts. Even when you say nothing, the enemy senses movement. Chosen one, this is not your imagination. This is your mantle in motion. The scroll that bears your name was written for divine resistance. You were not sent to entertain demons. You were sent to displace them. This is why the warfare has followed you from childhood. Why people have misread your intensity. Why you've always felt too much. Too deep. Too fast. It's not emotional fragility, it's spiritual frequency. You were built to confront things most people ignore. You were wired to call out patterns others normalize. And now, the scroll is unlocking a new layer of that confrontation, not of people, but of principalities. You were made to provoke freedom. According to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 3, verse 8, "But I will make you as unyielding and hardened as they are." This is what God does when He sends a warrior. He doesn't soften them for comfort, He hardens them for battle. He strengthens the soul. He fortifies the mind. He teaches hands to war and fingers to fight. You've been molded in fire not to be fragile, but to be flint. This is why you must stop playing small. Stop shrinking to be palatable. Stop silencing your discernment to preserve peace. The scroll wasn't written for your comfort. It was written for conquest. And your silence is not humility if it protects the enemy's agenda. You don't need permission to walk in this. The scroll has already authorized you. You've been through too much to second-guess your assignment now. You've seen too much. Survived too much. Wept too deeply. Prayed too honestly. You're not here for decoration. You're here on deployment. This is not the time to sit down. This is the time to stand. Stand in your authority. Stand in your revelation. Stand in your call to be a holy confrontation in a culture of compromise. Because when you speak, the scroll echoes. When you act in obedience, the spirit realm reacts. Every time you resist darkness, something ancient in you awakens. Every time you say no to the counterfeit, a new layer of your scroll unrolls. You're not just obeying, you're activating legacy. The generations before you longed to see this moment. And now, heaven has placed it into your hands, not to admire, but to advance. You are the interruption. You are the one who ends what others endured. The curse breaker, the bloodline shifter, the one with scrolls behind you and angelic forces beside you. And if this word resonates, if your spirit is burning right now, don't keep this to yourself. Like this as a sign that your spirit is alive and responding. Share it with someone else who carries that same disruptive fire but forgot who they were. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Because this isn't a one-time moment, it's a movement. A remnant is rising, and you are part of it. And if you've been asking God, where can I sow into what's feeding me? You're free to do so here. Your seed isn't just generosity, it's agreement. It helps send this message to places your feet can't go, but your scroll already speaks into. You're not donating to a voice. You're investing in vision. And if your spirit is saying, "This is me. This is my moment," and then type it below. Comment, "I confront darkness." Because when you say it, heaven responds. When you write it, hell trembles. This is more than a phrase, it's your line in the sand. You weren't born to tolerate shadows. You were raised up to tear them down. So shake the dust. Raise your voice. Walk in truth. Because when you do, the scrolls turn and history bends. This is your moment. Don't just feel it. Move in it. Because when you rise, generations rise with you. When you obey, destinies shift. When you confront darkness, legacy is rewritten. This isn't just about your scroll. It's about every scroll tied to your yes. The ripple is real. And what you break open now will become the doorway others walk through tomorrow. So walk boldly, war wisely, and never forget, your yes is someone else's freedom. There's a weight you carry that most people can't see. It doesn't show up in your appearance, your titles, or your tone, but in the spirit realm, it is undeniable. You walk with the weight of what was spoken before time began, what was written in the scrolls long before you took your first breath. And though the world may not understand it, heaven does. You were not born to simply exist. You were born to shift atmospheres. There are regions, bloodlines, and generational assignments connected to your very breath. And that's why your life has never felt light. That's why the cost has always felt high. Because you carry the evidence of something that still has yet to manifest in full. Chosen one. What you carry isn't ordinary. It's prophetic. It's dangerous to darkness. And it explains everything. The isolation, the misunderstanding, the long waiting seasons that broke your heart but sharpened your discernment. God didn't forget you. He was forming you. He was teaching you how to carry something others would mishandle. He was hiding you not because you weren't ready, but because they weren't ready for what you carry. When the weight of your calling presses down, it can feel like something is wrong. But in reality, it's a confirmation that something holy is still being shaped within. The scroll is not stuck. It's settling like fresh ink sealing on ancient parchment, and heaven will not rush what it intends to establish forever. That heaviness you feel at times, that isn't always warfare. Sometimes, it's glory. It's the presence of God resting on your assignment, reminding you that this isn't light work. This isn't casual. This is covenant. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 22, verse 22. I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut. And what he shuts, no one can open. That verse wasn't written for everyone. It was written for those whose shoulders were proven in silence, for those who endured when no one was clapping, for those who passed tests no one knew they were taking. And that's you. You have keys, others don't. Not because you're better, but because you've been broken in places most avoid. Because you didn't quit when quitting felt justified. Because you said yes without the applause. The scroll records every moment you chose purpose over comfort. There are realms that respond to your obedience. Doors that don't open for others will open for you, not because of charm, but because of weight. The weight of endurance, the weight of truth, the weight of yielded authority. This is why God had to prune you privately, why He allowed certain friendships to fall away, why He closed certain doors you cried for. He wasn't punishing you. He was protecting what you carry, because what rests on you is not just for you, it's for nations. You will walk into rooms you didn't expect. You will be given access others tried to buy but couldn't. You will speak and atmospheres will shift. Not because you're loud, but because your life agrees with the scroll. Because heaven recognizes its own. The more you lean into that awareness, the more you'll realize that nothing in your journey has been wasted. Every delay shaped you. Every loss refined you. Every detour redirected you back to alignment. There's not a single tear you've cried that the scroll didn't record. Not a single lonely night that heaven ignored. God does not waste what He's written, and He does not anoint lightly. So what now? Now, you walk like someone who understands the weight and wonder of what's on your life. Not in pride, but in reverence. Not in fear, but in fire. The scroll is not just a word, it's a responsibility. And you have proven, time and again, that you will carry it through. Don't let the silence fool you. Don't let the delay distract you. The scroll is active, and when the appointed time comes, you won't have to chase what's yours. It will recognize the weight on your life and find you, because those who carry glory never have to strive. They just walk, and the scroll opens before them. Not because of force, but because of alignment. Not through effort, but through evidence. And as you keep moving in step with heaven, you won't need to announce yourself. The weight will do it for you. You've come further than you realize. Not because the journey's been easy, but because you refused to bow to what tried to break you. You've walked through fire. You've endured loss. You've stood in silence when your voice was ignored. And still, you're here, carrying the weight of a scroll that refuses to let you quit. Chosen one. The road you've traveled is not a coincidence. It's been carved by obedience, refined by resistance, and sanctified by grace. Every detour, every dry place, every hidden valley, it was never about punishment. It was about preparation for fulfillment. There is a sacred mystery surrounding those whom God has set apart. They often look overlooked. They sound too intense. They seem too different to fit. But it's not rejection, it's refinement. Those who carry weight are not sent where it's easy. They're sent where it's needed. And that's why your process has been painful. That's why your calling has felt costly. Because you weren't designed to echo culture, you were designed to confront it. You weren't born to replicate, you were born to rebuild. The scroll bearing your name is thick with legacy. It speaks of things you haven't seen yet, rooms you haven't entered, mantles you haven't even known to ask for. But heaven already sees you walking in them, because heaven writes from the end backwards. You've been living inside a promise that was spoken long before your first breath. That's why the trials feel personal, because the assignment is specific. That's why the attacks come in silence, because the enemy fears what will happen when you stop hiding and start walking in your full name. There is a name, heaven calls you, that no one else knows. It's not the one given by your parents. It's not your social label. It's the name etched on the scroll, sealed in glory, reserved for those who endure to the end. It is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 17, "To the one who is victorious, I will give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it." That name, your scroll name, is tied to your finish, not just your beginning. And every step you've taken in secret obedience is leading you toward that fulfillment. You've been navigating based on faith, not sight. But the closer you get to the end of the scroll, the more familiar the path will become. You'll begin to recognize places you once only saw in dreams. Faces that once seemed far will suddenly walk beside you. Connections you didn't ask for will find you because they were written. And when they arrive, you won't need to strive to prove yourself. The scroll will speak for you. Your history won't disqualify you. It will qualify you as evidence that grace can carry someone all the way through. The endurance you carry is rare. The purity you've fought for is costly. The discernment you've cultivated in the dark is sacred. And heaven has recorded it all. Nothing has been wasted. Even your deepest wounds have become altars. Even your longest nights have become chapters. Even your quietest prayers have become weapons in the war for someone else's freedom. You haven't just been enduring, you've been becoming. You haven't just been waiting, you've been transforming. And soon, you will look back and see the full scroll. It won't be random. It won't be rushed. It will be revelation. You'll see how heaven orchestrated every pause, every transition, every release. You'll understand why certain doors never opened, because they were beneath your assignment. You'll finally feel the ease of walking in rooms where your spirit is recognized, not just your resume. So, walk steady, walk boldly. You are almost there. The scroll has not brought you this far to leave you now. And what has been sealed for generations is opening in your lifetime, because heaven always finishes what it starts. And you, chosen one, you were written to finish. And when you cross that unseen line, when your assignment is complete and the scroll closes in glory, heaven will not applaud your fame. It will echo your faithfulness. Not the noise you made, but the obedience you kept. Not the crowds you drew, but the darkness you broke. The final line will not read, "successful," "end of." It will read, "sealed," "fulfilled," "faithful," "finished." And the throne will whisper, "This one agreed with heaven." End of. That is your legacy. That is your reward. That is what the scroll was always pointing toward. Chosen one. If you've made it this far, it wasn't just curiosity, it was calling. Something inside you recognized truth. Not surface level inspiration, but the sound of your scroll awakening. This wasn't just content, this was confirmation. Every word aligned with what your spirit already knew, but couldn't always articulate. You are set apart. You are marked. You were born for something divine. So don't let this encounter end here. Like this, if your spirit said yes, let that action be a prophetic act, your agreement with heaven. Share this with someone else who carries the weight but forgot their name. Someone who feels the call but needs the confirmation. You might be the one who unlocks their scroll by simply obeying yours. Subscribe if you haven't, because there are more scrolls to be read, more secrets to be revealed, more moments like this one waiting on the other side of your obedience. And if this message fed you deeply, if it stirred something eternal in you, you can sow into the mission, not to tip a voice, but to partner with a vision. Every seed fuels what's next. Every gift sends this message further. You're not giving to a platform, You're investing in prophetic movement. Finally, if this pierced your spirit, type this below. My scroll lives. Just 3 words. But when you write them, heaven reads them. Let it be your shout in the silence, your seal of agreement, your declaration that you're not just inspired, you're aligned. You are not random. You are not forgotten. You are not small. You are written, and the scroll is still turning. This is only the beginning.